Like, they are about to die, by the way. Now is the time where he has a boner.
Why didn't you lead with this?
Because it happens.
Why did you lead with the politics?
You need to understand the socio-political context first to enjoy the boner.
What's up, guys? It's Kictor. I'm back with another Danmei book review with my beautiful girlfriend Stitch, who has done the work and has completely mapped out QJJ, also known in English as the Ballad of Sword and Wine.
I've gone so hard on this because I know QJJ was hard for me to understand, like the first time around, even the second time around. Hopefully just having a very in-depth summary can help people enjoy it to the max.
And to note, Stitch has read the entire book previously with the fan translation. So she is looking at it from someone who knows everything, but this will just be about volume 1 that you can purchase in the link in the description. All right, and I literally know nothing. I know it's enemies to lovers, and I know there's grain.
Yes, the importance of grain, but not yet. This is me after making this presentation. I am embroiled in the conspiracy that is QJJ. And I'll also be reading more directly from my notes because it is just so important to get every single detail right and not miss anything. So I've done a lot of prep work to prepare for this.
There is a map in this book.
Yes. Oh my god. I was so excited opening up the book for the first time and seeing a map. It makes everything so much easier.
It's pretty cool.
Our story begins with Shunwei, the most
Shenwei? Like Guardian?
Not the same Shunwei, for clarity. Erase the image in your mind of sexy guy.
Okay.
Not that guy.
Okay.
Unsexy guy.
Got it.
Our story begins with Shunwei, the most hated man in the nation of Zhou. Shunwei held the title of Prince of Jianxing and lorded over the 6 prefectures of Zhongbo. He then colluded with the 12 tribes of Bansha, who invaded from their territory in the northeast. After suffering a crushing defeat at the Shashi River, Shunwei retreated again and again, allowing the 3 cities in Duanzhou to fall. He didn't even burn the granaries as he fled, allowing the enemy to resupply and invade further. So we were talking about the importance of grain. Well, it's important for armies, so they wouldn't have even gotten as far as they did if he hadn't just let them resupply.
Okay.
Tens of thousands of civilians died. At the Dengzhou front line, he ignored the reinforcements coming from Shidong to retreat again, this time all the way to Dancheng. All 6 prefectures of Zhongbo were piled high with bodies. Worst of all, 30,000 soldiers perished at the Chashi sinkhole, while their commander, Shenwei's eldest son, Shenzhou, fled with his personal guards. 30,000 men were driven into a pit where they were crushed alive by their comrades, bodies piling higher and higher on top of each other, while the Biancha horsemen surrounded the sinkhole and fired a rain of arrows from above. Their bodies were not even collected for burial because every city in Danzhou had been massacred. Qudu, home of the Emperor and Imperial court, would have been next to fall had it not been for the Libe armored cavalry riding 3 days and nights to intercept the enemy and drive them out. After all that, Shunwei burned himself to death to avoid facing his crimes, and as a lecherous man on top of that, his large harem of wives and sons all perished at the hands of the Biancha horsemen. Only one member of the Shun family survived, his 8th son of common birth, who had been neglected and cast aside by his father, almost entirely forgotten, until the nation needed a scapegoat. When treason is committed, the entire family is guilty. Sun Jiaquan is the only remaining scapegoat for an entire nation's hatred. So this all happens before the start of the book, but that's what triggers the events of the book.
Everyone hates Shen Zishuan for stuff he did not do.
Yup, it was just his dad, who he didn't even have any relationship with. The important takeaway is that I wanted people to understand the scale of what happened, and so just seeing it all on the map, you can really understand like the scale of how many civilians and soldiers suffered in the process of this. Like, that's a huge amount of territory to be affected by this.
Yeah.
And the important thing also is just the Chashi sinkhole incident is especially traumatic.
Yeah. So there's going to be people from all over this map that don't like Shen Zishuan.
Yep.
Got it. And he was not involved in any of that.
He wasn't. However, he was there in the Chashi sinkhole. And so our first chapter, we can get into that, but he was directly affected by this incident because he was a victim of it as well.
And he's like, everybody's pitting this on me, and I was in the freaking sinkhole?
Yep, he was the only survivor of the Chashi sinkhole incident.
Why did Shenwei do all this shady stuff?
That's a great question. Thankfully, the book does answer this within volume 1.
Okay.
But as we're starting, it's not at all transparent, his motivation.
So you're just like, Shenwei went crazy, colluded with the evil people, tortured a bunch of people, and got this entire map to basically hate him.
Yeah.
And then lit himself on fire. And now his 8th son basically has to atone for the crimes.
He's the only one left.
Okay.
Okay.
Our first flowchart.
Not only is Shun Zechuan the only remaining member of the Shun family, he is also the only survivor of the Chashi sinkhole. He has experienced the horrors of his father's treason firsthand and is as much a victim as anyone else, and he's truly never had any personal ties to his father from a young age. The first chapter opens on his brutal interrogation in the capital's prison. He slips in and out of a PTSD flashback as he's being interrogated, barely aware of his surroundings. His interrogators believe that the reason for his survival is because the Biancha horsemen spared him, but it's actually because his big brother Jumi protected him with his body, using himself as a human shield against the enemy arrows. He dies before his eyes, and that death haunts him constantly.
Aww.
Yeah, he has nightmares about it.
Damn.
Every single night.
Okay.
Now we'll get into Jumi a little bit because he's not related to the Shun family.
Wait, I'm like, why did Shun Wei throw his own boys in the pit?
Okay.
He's just like, you know what? Everybody in the pit.
Shun Zechuan basically, like, completely, like, not acknowledged by his father.
So he was like the son of a prostitute and his father or something?
Yeah, so a good comparison is like Jing Guanyao.
Love him.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So really no ties with his family at this point. So he was serving as just a regular old soldier. Jumi is also not related. We'll get to that in the flowchart. Again, one of his like lawful sons was a commander of troops, but ran away, and everyone is dead by the end of this, so they don't really matter.
Okay.
Now, his interrogators think that he's lying because his brother, like his lawful brother, had already run away from the battle. Of course, Shun Zechuan isn't talking about anyone in the Shun family. He really had no association with them. So it's time for me to pause and explain his family situation. Shun Wei was a lecherous man, and although he had already had a wife and countless concubines, he became obsessed with the beauty of a dancer named Bai Cha and got her pregnant. However, she died when Shun Zechuan was very young, and he was raised in a small courtyard that he was not allowed to leave, out of sight and out of mind, until he was 7. He had only met his father a handful of times during that period, and the man only disdained him. After that, Shun Wei's main wife decided to clean house and kick out as many concubine sons as she could, sending them all to a far-off residence. Now Shun Zechuan was taken care of by a single old maidservant who was greedy for money and began to starve him to hoard his small stipend. Now what I think happened is that Hua Pingting knew his mother and tracked him down to check on him, found him in a terrible circumstance, and adopted him into her family, but I couldn't actually find that part in the book.
Okay.
So the important thing to note is that Shun Zechuan's only true family is his Shifu Jigang, Xinyang Hua Pingting, and his Daga Jimu. So on this,
what's Xinyang?
She's the wife of his Shifu, so it's his adoptive mother essentially.
Okay.
So on the flowchart we have Shun Wei slept with Bai Cha, made Shun Zechuan, but Bai Cha is connected by friendship to Hua Pingting, who adopted him, and she's married to Jigang, who is Shun Zechuan's Shifu, is an important character, and they had a biological son named Jimu, who died for Shun Zechuan, and they were all really important to him. And a couple of other things to note that will become important later is that Hua Pingting, surname Hua, comes from the Hua clan, which the Empress Dowager is from. So that's actually a very powerful clan to be associated with, even indirectly by a few steps. So that comes into play later. Also,
can we just talk about how hot Shun Zechuan is? I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
I feel like that's the first thing I just caught my eye. I'm like, oh, hello.
You're right. I think he's so sexy.
Yeah.
I honestly think he's probably like the sexiest Danmei boy ever.
Oh my god.
Because he's got a little sultry look about him. And he knows it. And he uses it.
Amazing. Okay.
I love it so much. Another thing to note at this point is Jigang has an adopted brother. They are estranged from each other, but that adopted brother is Ji Lei. And Ji Lei is the guy who is interrogating him in prison.
Okay.
Yeah, so not a good guy. Now, we go back to our story.
Okay.
So in prison, he repeats over and over again that Shun Wei is innocent and did not commit treason. He was just really bad at commanding troops. Technically, he has no way of knowing this, and probably doesn't believe it himself. However, he knows at this point that he's basically being tried for Shun Wei's crimes, and his only possible hope is that they don't have enough evidence of actual collusion that he can escape with his life. So he is just full on being like, Shun Wei's innocent, because if he admits any guilt on his part whatsoever, he's going to die.
Okay.
So like, this isn't, like, explicitly stated in easy words. Like, you just sort of have to infer it. So already we're having to use our brains a lot.
Okay.
But that's my best guess here. His interrogator and torturer is a man named Jilei, who is his Shifu's adopted brother. Jilei is extremely cruel and even tells Shen Zhishuan about how not only did his brother die because of him, but Hua Pingting was also raped and killed in the war zone. Although the court wants him alive to extract a confession, other powers are also at work. He is almost assassinated in prison when a heavy bag of dirt is used to suffocate him in his sleep for a seemingly natural death. So it doesn't leave any like signs of strangulation. He would just die in his sleep.
Okay.
But he fortunately wakes up in time and manages to fight for his life. He realizes at this point that there is more to the story of Shen Wei's treason. Clearly someone is afraid of what he might know and that he might reveal a secret. Of course he knows nothing, so it's not very helpful, but someone's afraid he's going to talk. Very early on, we see that Shen Zhishuan has an incredible will to live despite enduring so much suffering. He refuses to die and he wants revenge.
Okay.
Like, this is one of the first things that stood out to me as a reader and also was, like, a little intriguing, even a little confusing. Like, why won't he give up? Like, why won't he die?
Yeah.
Like, what does he have to keep living for? It's very compelling, very interesting. Unfortunately, he is sentenced by the Emperor to be flogged to death.
Oh.
Mid-flogging, his life is saved due to the intervention of the Empress Dowager. She holds as much power and influence as the Emperor, essentially holding her own court behind the scenes. This subtle tug and pull of power sets the stage for the entire story. Why would she save him? Well, the outward reason is because of Shen Zhishuan's connection to Hua Pingting, who comes from the same clan as the Dowager. So she's just like doing a solid in honor of her. However, the real reason is that she intends to indebt his life to her and use him as a pawn in the future. Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of lame. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Thanks for saving my life, but
There's, like, I feel like that aptly describes so much in the book. It's like there's people are acting with like certain pretenses for reasons, but are secretly behaving in these ways behind the scenes for other reasons. It's a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So like, see, like that's why it's important to kind of know up front like all these connections.
No, definitely. Yeah. Understanding the connections makes it seem much more understandable.
Yeah. So like in this PowerPoint, we might learn some things out of orders, but it will be for everyone's benefit.
Yes.
Okay. Next slide.
Also hot.
Yes. Yes, indeedy.
Is he the top?
Yeah.
My top radar is it's pretty good.
The Dowager might want Shen Zhishuan alive, but even that isn't enough to protect him from the powerful grudge that Xiao Qiye holds against him. He is the youngest son of the Xiao family, which lords over all of Libei, seen on the map, and that family commands the Libei Armored Cavalry, which suffered large casualties cleaning up after Shen Wei. Jilei despises Shen Zhishuan even more than he regards the Dowager's wishes, and attempts to accidentally cause his death by putting him in the path of Xiao Qiye, who immediately leaps off his horse and delivers a kick to his chest with the intent to kill. This is how our future lovers meet for the first time.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the Xiao guys hate the Shen guys.
Yeah, probably more than anyone, since they are the soldiers who had to step up.
Got it.
And
so that's their first meeting.
Yes,
How cute.
it's a meet ugly for sure.
Oh my gosh.
And definitely the source of real enemies to lovers behavior. They actually definitely hate each other. It's not a cute misunderstanding. It's not a difference of opinion. It's I want you dead.
Yeah.
Also, they're both like 15, 16 at this time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn. That's a lot to go through.
Yeah. That kick almost did the job, but Shen Zhishuan has hidden allies. His Shifu, Jigang, has finally caught up to him and secretly nurses him back to health in prison. He's able to do so because of some old connections. His father used to be the captain of the Embroidered Robe Guard, and a close...
Stop the Embroidered Robe
Oh, it's Embroidered Uniform Guard, actually. Yes. His father used to be the captain of the Embroidered Uniform Guard.
What? Are their uniforms embroidered?
Apparently so.
Wow.
So Jigong's father used to be not only the captain, but a close friend of the emperor. Jigong himself was exiled from the capital long ago and even burned his own face to disguise his identity in return, but his old comrades in the Embroidered Guard are still loyal to him, including the ones that work in the prison. Although unable to stop the torture and interrogation, they've done their best to hold back and protect Shen Zhishuan's life.
Okay.
So that explains why he hasn't died during the interrogation.
Shifu saved him.
Yep, and also, like, again, with the guards that are responsible for, like, flogging him to death, like, they were really trying to hold back as much as possible, and, like, other examples are, yeah, when he was being tortured and interrogated. Like, they've been trying in honor of Jigong, knowing that his connection to him.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, neither Xiao Qiye or Shun Jisrun know how much they are about to have in common. Both the Emperor and the Dowager are wary of Li Bei's power despite relying on its cavalry to protect them time and time again. In order to control the Xiao family, they reward Xiao Qiye for his brother's achievements by making him commander of the Imperial army in the capital. The Imperial army is a joke, basically the mall cops of the capital. And the gift is only meant to make Xiao Qiye a hostage unable to leave Qudu.
Got it.
And so now he can't leave Qudu. Like the Xiao family, kind of in a situation where he is a hostage, just in case they, I don't know, they're too powerful. Like they always have Xiao Qiye in the capital to do with.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So he's separated from his family and his homeland. His future is crushed, and he will never be able to have any real military achievement in the Li Bei armored cavalry. So all of that has been taken away from him in exchange for his family's faithful service. You kind of get this theme in Golden Terrace as well, where like people who are generals of powerful armies, they just serve the emperor and the nation faithfully, and in return they're only held in suspicion and taken down. Mm-hmm. That's what happens to Fu Shen, and that's what's happening to the Xiao family here.
Okay.
Both he and Shun Jishuan are described as trapped beasts in the capital, carrying a unique pain that only the other could possibly understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is something that they do see in each other early on, even though they hate each other. They do recognize that they're in similar situations.
Mm-hmm.
The emperor, dowager, and court officials can't agree on what to do with Shun Jishuan, so they end up imprisoning him for life in the Temple of Guilt. Good to have one of those on hand, right?
The Temple of Guilt. That's amazing. Okay.
Go to the House of Shame.
Yes.
The Temple of Guilt once housed traitors associated with the treasonous crown prince from 20 years prior. Jigang uses his connections to get a job as the temple attendant so he can stay with Shun Jishuan and continue his martial arts training. They meet the last remaining prisoner, a crazy old man who used to be the nation's best scholar and the crown prince's personal mentor. Grand Mentor Qi regains enough lucidity to teach Shun Jishuan politics, strategy, and other academic arts. At this point, we'll pause to go over what happened with the crown prince. These events took place 20 years ago, but formed the foundation of the current political climate of Qudu. 20 years ago, the embroidered uniform guard, which faithfully served and protected the emperor, fell in decline, while the palace eunuchs gained more and more power. When the emperor fell ill, the empress colluded with a powerful eunuch, Pan Rugui, and his godson Jile to stack the court with incompetent officials and subtly seize control. The crown prince, who was born of another imperial concubine, tried to expose them but was ultimately framed for treason and killed. By the time the current emperor took the throne, power was firmly in the dowager's grasp, and she had final say on everything the emperor said or did.
So he wasn't even a treacherous crown prince.
Right. We learned this from the Mentor Qi, but of course nobody knows that he wasn't actually treasonous.
So this current emperor and dowager sound like they're just so evil. They've got everyone where they want them.
Well, that's definitely true of the Empress Dowager. So the emperor right now is kind of a victim of her conniving.
Huh.
He doesn't have as much power as he should as emperor. Essentially, she has taken power from him and sided, and so she and the eunuchs have kind of turned the tide against the emperor.
Okay. So
I've got a flowchart here to kind of describe this situation. So the previous emperor, not the current one, has since passed away, but 20 years ago was alive. He and the dowager were married, and she and Pan Rugui, high-ranking eunuch, were allied together, and by association Jile, who is the godson of Pan Rugui, Crown Prince of Yangyi, found out about their treasonous activities, stacking the court and whatnot, and tried to get them in trouble, and he ended up killing himself in the Temple of Guilt 20 years ago. So nothing ever came of it, nobody ever found out. So he was the son of a concubine. The Empress Dowager never had any of her own children. So he was the son of another concubine, and another concubine produced the current emperor, who has ruled for 9 years now. So the emperor lived for 10 years after this incident, and then power switched over to the current emperor. But the Empress Dowager is still in power. So, this is a good time to actually explain the word dowager. So dowager is another word for widow, but it's a widow who has ownership of her dead husband's property and position. And so she maintained her status and position from her husband, and so now her stepson is emperor, but she is still
Empress Dowager.
Yeah, Empress Dowager. And she has been basically the one who's really in charge over this current emperor.
Hua Sichuan, head of Hua clan, Grand Secretary.
Yes, so that's another character to take note of at the moment because he is the brother of the Empress Dowager, so also has a lot of power. The brother of the current emperor is Li Jiangheng, who is the son of like another concubine of their father. He is like technically in line for the throne because the Xianda emperor doesn't have any heirs, but he's not the crown prince or anything like that. He's just kind of hanging out, having a good time.
Okay.
So this is where we're at. Does that make sense? Kind of how the crown prince incident happened?
Empress Dowager was married to the emperor. Emperor got sick, and then she was like, my plan. So she stacked the court with idiots, and then she was able to fulfill her own plans because the subordinates were like dumb and kind of on her side in her payroll, you know? Yeah. And then the crown prince was like, I think this is suspicious. And then she was like, I think you're treasonous.
Yes.
So really it was like this grand plan of hers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so that's how she basically came into power, which is important even now, 20 years later. So ever since then, corruption has been deeply entrenched in the court, and there's this constant vie for power that threatens to put the whole nation in jeopardy. Court officials and eunuchs are lining their pockets with bribes and skimming off the top of the treasury, while the court seems to come up empty for its various armies, which are barely able to protect against the constant threat of invasion. There's grain shortages due to war and famine and corruption, which is causing the common people to starve in various regions as well. So that's the current national climate, and it all kind of stems from this initial shift in power.
Because everyone's an idiot, but she's in power. It's like, oh, everything is suffering because of this, except for me. How funny.
How funny.
Okay.
Right. And the current emperor is this kind of lackluster guy. There's not much he can do about the empress kind of
Like she scares
having
me.
final say on everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so.
How feminist.
Yeah, I support women's rights and women's wrongs.
Well,
Just kidding, not this woman.
maybe if there was more grain.
But so, like, now that we learned all that, that's not even what actually happened. So now you get to learn the real story of what happened.
Okay.
This part is revealed towards the end of Volume 1, but I'm going to explain it now while the rest of it is fresh in your mind.
Okay.
The Crown Prince did not kill himself. He was killed by Shen Wei, who was part of the whole conspiracy. Moreover, Jilei was his accomplice. Jilei begged for protection from his godfather Panrugui, and in return, he forged the documents that would be used to prove the Crown Prince's treason. Despite getting away with murder, Shen Wei became paranoid that he would be found out and bribed Panrugui so that he could leave the capital. That's when he was conferred the title of Prince of Jianxing and placed in Zhongbo. Okay, so Zhongbo is situated perfectly between Qudu and the two strongest military powers of the nation, Libei and Qidong. So, you know, if, say, Libei or Qidong were to commit treason, as one might worry if you're the Empress Dowager, they would have to go through Zhongbo to get to Qudu, the capital, where everyone's at. In this way, he acted as a watchdog for the Dowager and a physical barrier against Qidong and Libei. However, Shen Wei's paranoia didn't stop there. He kept all his correspondence with the Dowager and Panrugui, knowing he was ultimately expendable in their eyes. Growing fearful that he would soon be replaced by a more suitable pawn, he realized that there was no way to protect himself any longer. And so he colluded with the Biancha tribes and essentially got his revenge by screwing over everyone and then killing himself.
So this is also because of the Empress Dowager. Like, he was very paranoid because he didn't trust her. Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, yeah, she's responsible for everything in the end. But
So you understand why he did all that craziness.
Yeah, so hopefully this answers the initial questions on Shen Wei's actions because it doesn't really make sense otherwise.
Yeah.
And the complicated political dynamics in the capital. So
Okay.
I assure you it grows even more complicated later on.
You've done an incredible job of explaining it, though.
Thank you. Okay, next slide.
Do boys even kiss in this novel?
We're getting to the kissing, but first they have to hate each other. And first, yeah, they got a long way to go. One's still in prison.
Okay.
The second time they meet as youths, it goes almost as badly as the first time. One night, Xiao Qiye gets sad and drunk and races through the city on his warhorse, Snowcrest.
Cool.
Character in his own right. We love Snowcrest. He ends up taking a tumble outside the Temple of Guilt, losing a bone ring given to him by his Shifu. Abusing his new authority as the commander of the Imperial army, he orders the guards to bring out Shen Zhexuan and tries to humiliate him in multiple ways, ordering him to sing a song, search for his ring in the snow, and even bark like a dog for him.
So he trips outside the Temple of Guilt and is like, I know who's in the Temple of Guilt.
Literally.
Wow. Okay. Also, weird dog bark thing. What is this? Freaking remnants of filth.
Okay, well, he doesn't do it.
Oh, good.
Shen Zhishuan instead puts on a pitiful act, crying out that Xiao Qie is trying to kill him again to get him in trouble with the emperor. Like, oh no, he's trying to kill me, guards! The emperor doesn't want me to be killed, remember? Xiao Qie tries to shut him up when he starts yelling like this, and they end up fighting viciously on the ground. Shen Zhishuan reveals his cunning and vicious nature in those moments, making a deep impression on Xiao Qie. So it kind of drops the act a little bit when they're wrestling and gets like really just, I don't know, gets like really hateful towards him and actually is able to fight, which shouldn't be possible. He should be like half dead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he bites his hand. He bites Xiao Qie's hand so hard that the mark is there years later.
Oh my god. Wow, okay.
Yeah. Shen Zhishuan pockets the missing ring during all of this chaos, and Xiao Qie becomes suspicious of Shen Zhishuan's surprising health and familiar fighting style. The reason behind this is revealed a bit later, but basically Xiao Qie's Shifu and Shen Zhishuan's Shifu are adopted brothers. So there's 3 adopted brothers total. There is Xiao Qie's Shifu, Shen Zhishuan's Shifu, and Jilei, who nobody likes. Because of that, they learned different but similar styles of fighting from the same Ji family boxing techniques. So as they're fighting, he's like, this seems familiar. Okay. So the connection kind of starts to be revealed early on, but we learn it later.
Okay.
So the following day is Xiao Qie's first official day at work as commander of the Imperial Army. What he discovers is military offices in shabby disrepair, a bunch of idling loafers over the age of 40 eating peanuts. He starts off by introducing himself in a friendly and casual way, getting the rundown that the Imperial Army essentially does manual labor and odd jobs for the palace and the Ministry of Works in the capital. The army has no status or power and can't afford to offend any officials, so they have sunk to the bottom of the hierarchy and take commands from practically anyone. But it's otherwise pretty cushy for the guys at the top, who just send around their underlings to do the work and get paid. So Xiao Qie listens patiently to all this, then kicks the guy talking to him in the chest. He has one move, and that's it.
Wow, okay.
He goes off on everyone there, laying down the law and making it clear that he's in charge now, and the Imperial Army will be run like an army. He has a long road ahead of him to make the Imperial Army a useful tool. It's also time for his brother Xiao Jiming to return to Libei, finally leaving Xiao Qie alone in the capital.
Okay.
Yep, so that's kind of Xiao Qie's, I guess, first goal at this point is to
reform the army.
Reform the army so that it's actually useful to him.
Okay.
But at this time, now he's also being left all by himself in the capital.
Okay.
Quick rundown of his family tree. So his father is Xiao Fangshu, and he has an older brother named Xiao Jiming, who is kind of the current commander of the Libei cavalry because his dad's old and retired. But his dad created the cavalry. He is still an incredibly intimidating and powerful figure. Zhou Chenchou is Xiao Qie's Shifu, and he's adopted brothers with Ji Gang. That's the connection there. Xiao Jiming is married to a nice lady, and he has a son known as Ashun at this part, who was just a little baby. He's actually, she was pregnant at the beginning of the book, and now, 5 years later, he's just a little toddler. There's some other characters connected to Xiao Jiming and Xiao Qiye that become more of a character later on, just kind of men on their side. Xiao Jiming's deputy general is Xiao Hui, and he is rivals with Chen Yang. It might be one-sided rivalry with Chen Yang being really insecure, kind of like a Feng Qing situation, not romantically, but in terms of position, because Chen Yang is the leader of Xiao Qiye's personal guards. He is with him in the capital. And underneath him are 2 guards in particular who are pretty funny supporting characters, Ding Tao and Gu Jin. So they all work for Xiao Qiye, those 3 guys, and they're in the capital.
Okay. Ooh, okay. Visual reminder that Xiao Qiye and Shen Zhishuan are hot. They still hate each other though, so pretend there's no smiling here. Okay. Okay.
Yes. Our future lovers are now in their early 20s. Shen Zhishuan is still confined to the Temple of Guilt, but Xiao Qiye has carefully crafted a reputation of being an idle pleasure seeker and taken to hanging out with Li Jiangheng, who is legitimately an idle pleasure seeker.
Okay.
Li Jiangheng is also known as Prince Chu. He's the emperor's younger brother and technically next in line for the throne because the emperor isn't very horny and hasn't produced any heirs. Okay. Prince Chu, on the other hand, has all of the emperor's missing horny. He's currently obsessed with a girl of common birth named Mu Ru, who belonged to his household and was essentially being raised to become a concubine as far as I can tell. But unfortunately, she caught the eye of Pan Rugui, and he leveraged his power to get her transferred to his household instead.
Okay.
I promise this is important. Prince Chu is consumed with the very dangerous idea of getting revenge on Pan Ruguay and won't listen to reason. So Xiao Qie, as his bro, convinces him to take out his anger on a less powerful target, Pan Ruguay's godson, a eunuch named Xiao Fushi. He arranges it so Li Jianheng can beat up the eunuch during a spring banquet hosted by the emperor. Unfortunately, the eunuch is drowned in a pond shortly afterwards by an unknown third party.
Poor guy. Damn. Okay.
He probably wasn't a great person since he's associated with Pan Ruguay, but yeah, still sad for him.
Okay.
But now that there's a dead body, it immediately looks like the emperor's life is in danger and everyone is thrown into a panic, so that escalated way further than they planned for. Prince Chu was conspicuously absent during that part of the banquet because he was beating up that guy, and would naturally be the prime suspect, but now the suspect is not of murder, it's of, like, treason, like, you're somehow planning to kill the emperor.
Right.
So not good. Xiao Qie knows that no matter what, Prince Chu cannot be found complicit in anything akin to treason, as it would damage Li Bei by his association to him.
Okay.
So what Xiao Qie does is he quickly takes all of the blame himself, claiming that he beat up the eunuch over a personal slight, like that happened months prior, but that the prince left the banquet to stop him. In this way, he deflects the blame for the murder away from them both. He's like, I beat him up, but I don't know what happened afterwards. You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then it comes to light that the Temple of Guilt's attendant, whose identity we know as Jigang, was sighted by the pond. Shen Zexuan is brought before the emperor to explain his connection to the murder. He spins a tale about how he has spent the last 5 years faithfully repenting, and that the temple attendant took pity on his wish to buy blessing lanterns for the dead, arranging to meet with Xiao Fushi for this transaction. The emperor is too sick and tired, literally and figuratively, to get to the bottom of things. After all, the life of a eunuch is ultimately worth very little. It's too risky to offend the Xiao family, and he doesn't want to implicate his own kin either. He gives everyone a slap on the hand with some house arrest and a deduction of stipends. So the biggest takeaway ends up being the dowager speaking up on Shen Zexuan's behalf. She nudges the emperor to give Shen Zexuan a chance to redeem himself with a position in the embroidered uniform guard. And just like that, he's finally free. Xiao Qie is the only one who sees through Shen Zexuan at this point and is quick to confront him afterwards, but he's learned a few lessons in subtlety over the years and doesn't fight him this time.
Okay.
They both acknowledge the similarity in their situations of being trapped by higher powers during this conversation and see each other as adversaries.
Okay. Game recognizes game.
Yes.
Gotcha.
He's like, I'm on to you, little bitch. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I see. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the first time they meet after this time skip. And, of course, things... They meet a lot more after this now that he's out of prison.
Okay.
Okay, and also, like, one thing to kind of note at this point is, like, Shen Zexuan is joining the embroidered uniform guard. The embroidered uniform guard is essentially under the dowager's control because Ji Lei is the commander of them, and Ji Lei is Pan Ruguay's godson, and Pan Ruguay is working for the dowager.
Yeah.
Of course she would suggest that.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, next slide. At this point, I want to make a quick introduction of other characters who appear in this volume but become far more important later. There are some slight spoilers involving their roles beyond the first volume of the novel in order to provide better context. So, first up, Yao Wenyu attends a small dinner with other scholars hosted by Shi Huangshuan during this volume and is the only one to remain calm and silent while the others gripe about Shen Zexuan being released. So he's kind of teased as being, potentially an ally to him in the future. But that's really the only time he shows up in this volume. Qiao Tianya is introduced on Shen Zexuan's first day at work in the embroidered uniform guard. He's responsible for showing him the ropes, and he makes it clear to the other guards that Shen Zexuan is one of their own now and that they shouldn't haze or abuse him. So also kind of a cool guy. This is like not in the first volume at all, but it becomes a big part later on.
Spoilers for side characters in future volumes. In 3, 2, 1.
So Yao Wenyu and Qiao Tianya end up becoming close allies with Shen Zexuan later in the story, and more importantly, in my opinion, the two of them become romantically entangled.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not talking about subtext. I'm talking about butt sex, okay? Because what draws them together is that sometime between now and then, they both fall from grace in the eyes of the world and lose their whole identities. They are sad boys, and I think they make a good foil for the main couple because they're doomed lovers a little bit because of their circumstances and because they kind of lack the courage to just passionately put each other first in everything.
Mm-hmm.
There is a very real romantic subplot between them that I wasn't expecting, so that's something to keep an eye out. Okay, now, Qi Juyin appears a few times in this volume in her capacity as a commander. There's not a ton of female characters in the story, but the ones that are there play pretty powerful roles, like the Dowager, but she's a good guy, so love that. Hua Xiangyi is barely introduced in this volume, but I want to mention her alongside Qi Juyin because I'm convinced that they end up having a thing for each other later on. Like, I might be crazy.
Lesbians?
I know. I could be crazy because it's not explicit like the other pairing, but I swear, okay? Even though nothing really comes of it by the end of the story, sad to say, I feel like I'm right. I feel like there's definitely some sort of implied romantic thing going on between them. Maybe, like, it never actually comes to fruition, but I swear I cannot be the only one who's thinking this.
Okay.
Like, their circumstances get thrown together and they have some really interesting interactions. So, anyways, just some cool side characters to keep an eye on in future volumes. Okay, so Shen Zexuan is assigned to the elephant training department of the Embroidered Uniform Guard.
Like actual elephants?
Yeah. Okay, like there's this whole thing where like they're like,
the hell?
The court has elephants and they attend morning court every morning and like they're just kind of like there to look cool. Okay. And for all of that, there's not as much elephant content in this whole story as I would have hoped.
Yeah.
Like in this volume, there's really not a lot of elephant interactions.
You can't introduce the elephants and then not have more elephant content.
Right?
The whole time you're going to be hoping for more elephant.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, cool. So we get to follow him in his journey to become an elephant trainer. No, not important at all. I don't think we see him interacting with elephants at all.
Do they have elephants in China?
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah, because there's the African elephants and the Asian elephants. The Asian elephants have smaller ears. I've been to the zoo.
I'm like, that's news to me. What the hell?
Yeah, look how little their ears are.
Looks like a normal elephant.
Look at their ears. That is a little ear.
I had no idea.
Look how thick that trunk is.
Shen Zexuan at the elephant training department. I should call him. You might be wondering how on earth Shen Zexuan can possibly walk free with his father's reputation still hanging over him. Well, people aren't happy. 3,000 students rally on hunger strike and kneel in front of the palace begging the emperor to take back his decision. And although Xiao Qiye is under house arrest, he's called into duty to do the nasty job of dispersing them. Many of the students are from influential families and all of them are future candidates to become public officials, so nobody wants to risk messing with them. Xiao Qiye delivers some powerful words to the head of the
I thought you were going to say some powerful kicks to the chest.
Honestly. That's honestly what I expected him, but he just goes and yells at them about how they're putting the emperor in an impossible position and they can't possibly succeed by doing this. He's like, you can't just ask the emperor to like take back his word. Like, that's just embarrassing. He's not going to do it.
Yeah.
So Chao Tianya shows up with Shen Zexuan in tow, and our future lovers have an intimate conversation about how much they despise each other while sharing the same umbrella. But then Pan Rugui and Jilei show up and they immediately escalate the situation into a full-blown riot.
Oh.
Like, they go and they yell at the students and the students freak out and they start throwing shit and it just descends into chaos. So Xiao Qiye and the Imperial Army prevent the Embroidered Uniform Guards from arresting any of the students, which salvages the situation just barely. Because if they arrested any of the students, it would have become a whole incident.
Right.
Kind of a situation where you can see that Pan Rugui has no good intentions for anybody.
Yeah.
At this point, you absolutely need to hear an example of their banter because these two do not care for each other in the least, but when they talk, it's just dripping with flirtatiousness. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
And then you'll see why all of this information is worth it. Shen Zexuan's eyes wandered down. That's a fine blade. Lifting a hand, Xiao Qiye blocked his view. And the man isn't? One of the lanterns upstairs went out. Shen Zexuan sighed. How do you expect me to answer that? It's a rather inappropriate question. You have a keen eye. Xiao Qiye moved his hand away. The gaze he fixed on Shen Zexuan was ruthless and fierce. Few people can recognize a good blade. When the man himself was finally appointed, Shen Zexuan said amiably, naturally, everything he wears is quality. It was a lucky guess. Even a blind cat will stumble upon a dead mouse once in a while. Why is it that when you praise me, I feel as though I've seen a ghost? You don't get praised often, Shen Zexuan's tone was gentle. I haven't even voiced my most heartfelt words. The people around them had dispersed.
Everyone's like, we're getting out of here.
This is gay, we're out of here. You seem to be good at restraining yourself, Xiao Qiye said blandly. Grand schemes are thwarted by a lack of forbearance. You'll experience more of my capabilities soon enough. Shen Zexuan smiled. Try to be patient. Grand schemes. What is there for you to scheme over in this tiny city of Qudu? I say a few words, Shen Zhishuan looked at Xiaoqie sympathetically, and you believed them. I didn't take you for the naive and artless type, Argungzi. I'm but a frivolous young master loafing around, drinking and dining and waiting to die, Xiaoqie said. How would I know what treachery the world holds? And now there's even someone like you come to deceive me. 1,000 pardons, Shen Zhishuan took a step forward. I saw how piteous you were with your talons and fangs sealed. That slash of your blade tonight must have been gratifying. A little. Xiaoqie lifted a leg to block Shen Zhishuan's way. Where are you going? We're not done talking. Escorting you back to your manor. You helped me out of a bind tonight, and for that I'm so grateful and practically on the verge of tears. How can I ever repay the kindness? Xiaoqie grinned, mouth full of lies. You must have deceived quite a few. Not so many. Shen Zhishuan looked back at him. Of course, in this life one must tell a few lies, such as the kind about having plenty of money. This is because Xiaoqie forgot his wallet earlier, and right in front of Shen Zhishuan. It's very embarrassing. But I can hardly compare to you. Xiaoqie dropped his leg. You see, Shen Zhishuan said pleasantly, you're being polite again. There was simply no way to have a conversation with this man. It was impossible to tell which of his words were truth and which were lies, every sentence drawing a veil over the last. No matter how long they spoke, Xiaoqie couldn't make head or tails of it. Xiaoqie turned and whistled for his horse, then said, Because of this incident tonight, you speak as if we're close, but your audience is gone now. Why keep up the act? Then what should I do? Lantern in hand, Shen Zhishuan looked at him with soft and obliging eyes. Bite you again? Referencing 5 years ago, of course.
Stop! Oh my god!
It's just, and you're just like, how are they flirting like this? With so much venom in their words. Xiaoqie took a swift step closer and said lightly, You use this flesh to bewitch others. What do you expect me to think if you look at me like that? Stop. Unperturbed, Shen Zhishuan answered, soft-voiced, But I was born with a pair of affectionate eyes.
Oh my god!
And he's like, You're a schemer! You're scheming! I'm onto you! I'm gonna keep a close eye on you, not because you're pretty.
He's literally like, you're so sexy.
You're so sexy.
You're so sexy. I'm not equipped for this.
Literally. Like, when they speak to each other, it's in this sort of, like, what we're saying isn't what we're saying. Our tone doesn't match our intentions. It's very, like, it's very flirtatious, even though the whole point of the conversation is, I hate you so much.
Oh my gosh.
That's good. Isn't that delicious?
Yes.
Every single time they interact, it's this bad. Like, they are incapable of having a normal conversation. It has to be insinuating something.
Yeah.
And so, it's just, every interaction is so juicy. You could put up with so much more than an amazing plot full of detail and intrigue just for their interactions. But, it's good. Okay, so I have some thoughts on this, though. I think Xiaoqie is a little bit obsessed with Shen Zhishuan because he sees a huge disparity between his serene and untroubled facade and the ferocious determination and strength he witnessed 5 years ago. Like, he saw through him when he was like a rabid animal, like fighting him and being angry. And now he's acting so unbothered. He's like, I know that ain't you.
Yes.
You're obviously capable of scheming.
Yeah.
He knows that he carries this deep-rooted grudge and unknown ambitions, and his capability to hide his true feelings is uncanny, so he has reasons to suspect him genuinely. And like the paragraph said, every time they speak, he can't tell what's truth and lie. Mm-hmm. Also, he knows now that Shen Zhishuan still has his ring, he let that one drop, and he really wants it back, so he's definitely not going to leave him alone now.
I see.
Danmei inherently has a lot of mature themes and explicit content.
That's why I like it.
Including violence. Yes. We like the other kind of mature themes. So I think most readers are prepared for that, but a lot of people do draw the line at animal abuse, so I want to give a heads up.
Oh god,
no! Listen.
No!
It's okay, we don't have to talk about it. We can skip this altogether. But to give a heads up, to give a warning to others who are not aware, Chapter 18 does have a disturbing scene of that nature.
It is the most disturbing thing ever. When Stitch told me about this when she was originally reading, it literally it ruined my fucking night. It upset me every single time I thought about it.
Yeah, so
let's not talk about it.
We don't have to. We can actually skip the story. But in short, I just want to say the chapter is completely skippable. It doesn't impact your understanding or enjoyment of the rest of the story. So chapter 18, if you don't want to be disturbed, if that's going to be an issue for you, skip it. The safe summary is that Shen Zhexuan is invited to a dinner party hosted by Prince Chu, where a supporting character commits a symbolic gesture of intimidation towards him on behalf of Jilei, who we know is a certified asshole. Okay? We don't have to go into the details of that at all, so we can skip over that. But the flowchart still makes sense though, so we can go over that. But just to like catch ourselves up, like the new character that's introduced is the replacement for Xiao Fuxi, who we know drowned and is dead. So the new character that was introduced at the dinner party is Feng Chuan, who is Muru's brother. Now Muru is the concubine that Ji Lianheng was so hung up over, but is now part of Pan Ruguay's household. So how he fits into the grand scheme of things is that he is the adopted grandson of Pan Ruguay, the replacement for Xiao Fuxi. He's a eunuch, and his grandfather is a eunuch, right? So the whole adoption thing makes sense there. And so that makes Jilei his godfather. So he shows up and is like, Jilei told me to do this thing. And so, yeah. So that's how Feng Chuan is part of the story. But it's a tangled web, and we can move on from there. This is an exciting scene. This is one of the most exciting parts of the book. Okay, so the current emperor has been ill for a long time, and his time is almost up. As long as he produces an heir, the dowager will seize power after his death by acting as a regent ruler for the infant heir. But no such baby has been born, and so the emperor has one last-ditch effort to prevent the dowager from taking over after he's gone, because he's tired and embittered from being under her thumb during his rule. He plans on giving Prince Chu the title of crown prince at the autumn hunt as his last fuck you to the dowager. But the dowager won't be foiled so easily. Shen Zhexuan receives a message from Feng Chuan in which the dowager orders him to assassinate Prince Chu at the autumn hunt, or he's as good as dead himself. However, he's far from the Empress's only pawn, so there are sure to be countless other assassins laying in wait during the hunt, whether or not he did it himself or not. Xiao Qiye is on high alert regarding Prince Chu's safety and is personally taking care of his security measures during the hunt. Okay? So everyone's gathered at the hunting grounds for a celebratory banquet. I've made a diagram showing most of the major players present at the banquet and who they align with. Okay? During the banquet, the emperor brings forth Hai Liang Yi, who brings forth a minor public official named Shui Xiushuo. This minor official, essentially nobody, presents a personal appeal to the emperor that had been blocked multiple times by the normal chain of command. Although he's essentially a nobody, he's in a unique position as an auditor to reveal that there is an insane amount of embezzlement going on in the treasury funds. He accuses Hua Xietian, the head of the Ministry of Revenue, who is the dowager's brother, of covering this up. So after he's accused, he calls up Jilei and the embroidered uniform guards, and the emperor commands Shi Guoyan and the 8 battalion soldiers to take down Hua Xietian. So when he's accused by this official, who again, the emperor is kind of set up for this to happen, that triggers these 2 groups of soldiers to have a standoff. No one's attacking each other yet, but suddenly it is a standoff, and it's kind of because the emperor is sick. And even though he's in charge, everyone knows that what really matters is who's in charge after he's dead. Even though the emperor has commanded Shi Guoyan, he hesitates because Hua Xietian tells him that his wife and children are currently in the hands of the dowager. It doesn't matter that the emperor is right in front of him giving him direct commands. Everyone knows what matters is who becomes the next ruler of the nation. The emperor says that Prince Chu will inherit the throne, but Hua Xietian announces that the imperial concubine Wei is 2 months pregnant. So he's saying, actually, there is an heir, and as soon as that baby's born, the dowager's going to be in charge. Prince Chu has no chance of obtaining the throne. Okay. So now, this guy with his 8 battalion soldiers, I don't know who to attack right now. Yeah. Pan Ruguay then announces that Prince Chu is trying to stage a coup and orders him to be killed as a traitor. So this is kind of paralleling what happened 20 years ago. But suddenly he's like, actually, Prince Chu is trying to usurp the throne. We have an excuse to kill everyone here now. So chaos immediately breaks out. Xiao Qiye is prepared for this. He protects the prince and they flee into the forest on horseback. The prince is hidden away by Xiao Qiye and he separates from him to continue stalling for time. So the emperor had expected something like this to happen at the autumn hunt, and he sent Qi Juyin a message to bring her army from Qidong to the hunting grounds. However, that message was intercepted by the embroidered uniform guards and never sent. So they told the emperor, hey, your reinforcements that you think are coming are not actually going to come. You're screwed. So the dowager and her allies felt comfortable staging the coup to begin with, because she's not actually coming. However, another message was sent through other communication channels, and Xiao Qiye also seems to be aware of this, and so it did manage to arrive. So she is actually coming. So Xiao Qie knows that he only needs to bide his time and wait for her reinforcements to arrive. Quick reminder, this is where we're at, circled in red, the Nanlin hunting grounds. So I focused on a lot of the politics so far, but I promise that getting to know the characters early on is worth it to have an easier time reading the next volumes. At any rate, now we can fully focus on some action and some interactions between our future lovers. Now, the objective of the embroidered uniform guards is to kill Li Jiangheng, aka Prince Chu, but Xiao Qie is an important hostage to keep Li Bei in check, so he has to be taken alive no matter how many guards he kills in the process of avoiding capture. Xiao Tianya is the only one who is close to his match in combat, and Xiao Qie is nicked by an arrow coated with tranquilizer while he's outnumbered by the guards. He escapes further into the forest where he's met by another attacker, but this one has the intent to assassinate him. So Xiao Qie doesn't know who would want to kill him at this point because he's more valuable alive, but he takes out the assassin and then he's attacked by none other than Shen Zhixuan. So quick reminder, he's working for the embroidered uniform guard, so he's on the same side as Xiao Tianya and presumably the Dowager. They wrestle to the ground, threaten each other with far more flirtation than should be possible, and then Shen Zhixuan kills the second assassin after Xiao Qie. He grabs Xiao Qie's hand and escapes with him. They kill more embroidered uniform guards together as they flee. So at this point, he's clearly abandoned the embroidered uniform guards. So, I mean, this is coming as a total shock to me as a reader.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? He was supposed to, like, assassinate the prince and, you know, stay alive according to the Dowager. Like, he's completely abandoned any support that the Dowager would have for him. He does not care about her at all.
Yeah.
Anyways, I cannot stress enough that their banter consists of lines like, "You want to die with me in the name of love?" and "After tonight, I own you."
Oh my god.
This is sickening. They
Oh
are
my
fighting for their
God.
lives and they still have time for this nonsense. I love it. But at some point, Xiao Qie can no longer move because of the poison, and they hide beneath a rock outcropping by a creek to wait for him to recover. Xiao Qie is a useless gay at this point. He is so overtly attracted to Shen Zhixuan, thinking about how beautiful he is while still masculine. It's like, man, he's so pretty, but the way he killed those guards was so masculine. That's yeah. And then he ends up fixating on the nape of his neck.
Oh my god.
He's like, there's just a little bit of mud flecked on his perfect jade-like skin. I don't think you want to just choke him out at this point. I think, like, you are fixating on his neck for other reasons.
You want to choke his chicken.
Yeah. It only gets worse, though. So as the pursuers draw near, Shen Zhixuan has to squeeze into their tiny hiding spot until he's literally straddling him.
That was the only way, really.
It was a very small hiding spot, right? Anyways, Xiao Qie pops a boner, God bless him. Straight up.
That's amazing.
Right?
Oh my
At
god.
a time like this, like, they are about to die, by the way. Now is the time where he has a boner. Like, they still hate each other. The hatred has not gone away, but Xiao Qie's attraction to him is, like, winning at this point.
Oh my god.
Isn't that amazing? Shen Zhixuan can feel it pressed against him,
Stop.
but can't say anything or do anything.
What does it, do we get to hear his thoughts about it?
Throughout the volume, there's only really a few times where we see more personal side of him. I think overall, Xiao Qie's thoughts are a lot more transparent than his in the narrative, even though, like, the point of view technically covers all of it. So we don't get his thoughts on that.
Okay.
We do get Xiao Qie's embarrassment for sure, but as soon as the coast is clear, he makes his thoughts clear on his own because he throws him headfirst into the creek.
Ah.
Xiao Qie yanks him in after him and pins him underneath him.
Stop. Oh
And
my god.
in this position is trying to claim no homo. Like, bro, it was just an automatic reaction. I'm like, it means nothing. It just happens to everyone once in a while.
Oh my god.
Anyways, Shen Zhixuan presses a knee to his boner pointedly. Like, really? No homo.
Oh my god. He's like, tell me you're not into this right now. Oh my god.
At this point,
why
Xiao
didn't
Qie...
you lead with this?
Because it happens.
Why did you lead with the politics? Lead with the creek boner.
You need to understand the socio-political context first to enjoy the boner. Like, how are you supposed to enjoy this moment if you're, like, confused on what's happening?
Oh my god.
Hey,
yeah,
I prepped
you're
you
right.
with this. I lubed you up for this moment.
Don't say that. What the hell?
So, yes, at this incredible time, that happens.
Jesus.
And you may be wondering, what do you do once you're in this situation if you're Xiao Qie? Like, what on earth can you possibly do to defend yourself?
Come on his face.
More or less, no. Like, he does give up on defending himself. He's like, you know what? He's gonna think what he's gonna think. I really don't have words to defend myself, so I'm just gonna stop talking. And so he just... How he's described at that point is so funny. It's like, he's in the creek, so he, like, shakes his head like a dog is what is what the book says. And you just imagine him like so cute. He's just like shaking the water off of his head. And then he immediately closes up Shen Zhishuan's collar, which distracted him in the first place. Like, it was a little bit open from their fight for life, and the nape of his neck led him to sin. And so the first thing he does is just, like, close up his collar to prevent that from happening another time.
God.
Shen Zhishuan does not appreciate any of this. Thankfully, Boner included, Xiao Qiye has successfully stalled the entire night, giving time for Qi Juyin to actually arrive with her troops. Kind of to come in, save the day, secure the situation. Now, the entire time, Prince Chu was actually disguised as one of the embroidered uniform guards. That's how he was able to hide the whole night.
Nice.
He was caught at the very end of the night, but rescued in the nick of time. So that was all Xiao Qiye's plan. His preparation saved his life. And so, yeah. We know that even though he's kind of an idiot compared to Shen Zhishuan, he is still very clever in his own right. Anyways, meanwhile, Concubine Wei is drowned in a well, getting rid of the potential heir problem, which means Li Jiangheng is now the crown prince. It probably could have been the emperor. I don't know, because he wants the crown prince to inherit. Okay. Anyways, so Li Jiangheng is now the crown prince, which was the emperor's last design. The dying emperor tells him to kill Hua Sheqian and Pan Rigui to limit the dowager's power, and to never let Xiao Qiye return to Libei.
Oh.
Yep, he's like, do not let him back. If it comes to it, kill him, but do not let him return.
Okay.
So the emperor is concerned not only about the empress dowager, but on the Xiao family. Now, they have been perfectly loyal this entire time, but it kind of comes down to the concept of being loyal to the nation versus loyal to the emperor.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They're good people, they protect the nation, but they're just too powerful to really be trusted. Li Jiangheng doesn't forget his words, and even though his best friend literally saved his life, he doesn't reward him with the one thing he wants, which is to go home. And so in the following days, Xiao Qiye goes on a drinking binge in his depression hours, and Shen Zhishuan runs into him in an alleyway as he's puking up his guts. They start to bicker as always, but Xiao Qiye is upset and aggressive, demanding answers from Shen Zhishuan as to why he isn't dead, what is he plotting, blaming him for his father's crimes, etc. He antagonizes Shen Zhishuan to the point where he drops his facade, and Xiao Qiye catches another glimpse of that burning hatred that he saw inside of him 5 years ago. He snaps at Xiao Qiye and says, like, I lost my brother and Xingyang that day. Why am I to blame? He's saying that I'm a victim, like, just as much, if not more than anyone else. Like, why is it on me to, like, pay for these crimes? They once again end up fighting on the ground.
That's their thing.
It's their thing. They like to tussle. Even though they're at odds with each other, they're the only ones who can empathize with each other's situation. And maybe the bar is in hell for their relationship at this point, but Shen Zhishuan doesn't fight other people like this. It doesn't matter what they say to him. He's always, like, very humble and unbothered. But Xiao Qiye is the only one who can get under his skin. And while we don't see Shen Zhishuan's attraction explicitly the way that we see Xiao Qiye's attraction, the way he speaks to him is, like, both antagonizing and flirtatious. So he plays into Xiao Qiye's attraction for him a small amount while also keeping him at an arm's length. So I feel like even though we don't see his attraction or his thoughts in the same level, maybe it wouldn't be unfair to infer that Xiao Qiye is a little bit of an exception as well.
Yeah.
Like, he could easily find him hot because, I don't know. Like,
he is hot and they have very similar pasts.
He is hot. They do have things in common. They are kind of flirty adversaries. So Shen Zhishuan is determined to never interact with him after having lost his cool that time, but Xiao Qiye pulls rank on him because the embroidered uniform garment is being restructured after their role in the autumn hunt debacle. They've been temporarily assigned under the Imperial army. So he orders Shen Zhishuan to attend to him night and day until he's reassigned. Like, kind of as a personal guard sort of situation. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. One day, he takes him to the Imperial army training grounds and forces him to spar with him. And, like, kind of, like, going back to how his fighting style is familiar to Xiao Qiye. So he's trying to find out more about that and also why he's able to fight. Like, he learned at the autumn hunt that he's incredible in combat, but the thing is, he has the body of a twink, and that's actually, like, there is actually something to that.
Okay.
And that's revealed later. Anyways, Shen Zhishuan turns this on him and is like, Your Excellency, I'm not into men, please stop pestering me, in front of all the soldiers who have come to watch.
Wow.
So they all start teasing Xiao Qiye, being like, yeah, sir, that fight did look a little gay. You do not look at us that way while you are disciplining us.
Oh my
You don't
God.
smile at us that way. Yeah, so now it's like this public ordeal, and Shen Zhishuan has kind of started this game of gay chicken, because after that point, Xiaoqi kind of doubles down on being like, yup, you guys aren't special, but he is, sort of situation. Not being full on, yeah, I like him, you guys back off, but he's like, if Shen Zhishuan wants to try to like push me away by making this gay,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. I'm going to like move closer to him when he says these things, not go away.
Yeah.
So, okay. So after the autumn hunt debacle, Pan Rugui and Jilei did go to prison, but they haven't been executed yet because they haven't confessed under interrogation. So at this rate, they might never be executed, which is bad. We want them dead. So Shen Zhishuan makes an arrangement with Shi Hongshuan to speed up the process by extracting a confession from Jilei himself. So he gets to go into the prison and speak to him directly to hopefully get a written and signed confession. Now, remember, Jilei tortured him back in the day, so when Shen Zhishuan shows up to return the favor, he's understandably terrified by the grudge he must carry. Shen Zhishuan tricks him into confessing the truth about what happened to the crown prince 20 years ago, in addition to his current involvement and things.
Nice.
So I told you about that earlier, but this is actually when it's revealed.
Okay.
Thankfully, we don't have to see what Shen Zhishuan did to Jilei after that, but he was skinned alive.
Oh my God. Well.
Now, to speak up for Shen Zhishuan, he didn't get revenge for his own sake, because 5 years ago, Jilei told him about the rape and murder of his Shifu's wife, the woman who was like a mother to him.
Mm-hmm.
And during this interrogation, Shen Zhishuan turns that on him and asks, how could you have known such a thing? Because no one knew what happened to her. And so it is implied that Jilei was directly involved in her torture and death.
Right.
I don't know if he did it himself or how much he was behind that.
Yeah.
But Shen Zhishuan did dirty his hands to such an extent on behalf of her.
Nice.
Yeah, he really truly does love his family, even though they are mostly all dead at this point except for his Shifu.
Loved them enough to skin him for it.
Yep. Okay, so Shen Zhishuan returns from his little outing to run into Xiaoqi again, who has been waiting for him and can instantly smell the reek of blood on him. Shen Zhishuan seems calm, but he is in a new state of mind. He's accomplished a piece
I
of...
think after skinning someone alive, it does change you a little bit inside.
Yes, yeah, he's chill on the outside, but he is definitely in a little bit of a wibbly-wobbly state of being. He's accomplished a piece of revenge long in the making, and yet it hasn't really gained him anything, so he's a little bit depressed.
Classic.
He's still unable to escape his past or his fate, and he will always be tainted with death. He's still baby girl, however, and being out in the rain makes him sneeze.
Oh my God.
So he asks for Xiaoqi's handkerchief, and Xiaoqi gives it to him.
I just skinned a guy alive.
Yes!
Right?
It's just the dichotomy we see from him is incredible. Another good indication that he's in a delicate state of mind is that when he takes the handkerchief, he thinks that it smells so good, like sunshine beyond his reach, and he doesn't want to give it back.
Oh my gosh. That's gay.
It is gay. It's the first indication that is a little bit gay.
Yeah.
On his end of things. He doesn't seem really moved by Xiaoqi, but this is the first sense that there might be something there. And this does come more into play in later volumes, with Xiaoqi's scent being this sort of, or him just as a person representing this sense of a free spirit. Like in Libe, he was able to run on his horse and experience nature and just be absolutely free in the wild. And he represents that ultimate freedom, even in something as small as his scent.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of foreshadowing that part of Xiaoqi, that his indomitable spirit and his that sense of freedom still in him, is something that Shen Zhishuan is attracted to. And in this moment of weakness, we can see a little bit of that. So I think at this moment, Shen Zhishuan is feeling really trapped, like he will never experience freedom no matter how much revenge he takes. So it's a little bit sad. Anyways, they bicker about who should hold the umbrella and who's taller, and suddenly Xiaoqi asks him why he doesn't just leave the capital. He's like, you got out of the Temple of Guilt, why don't you just leave? Why are you still here? Shen Zhishuan says, that isn't something that someone who hates me should say. But Xiao Qie can no longer bring himself to say that he hates him, even if he hates Shen Wei.
Aww.
There's already one boner, and the paradigm is already shifted. He's like, I actually don't hate him anymore. I don't trust him. I am suspicious of him, and I think he's scheming, and I think he's bad news, but I don't hate him the way I hate Shen Wei. Shen Zhishuan is not at all warmed by this. He says that he survives on hatred. So, anyways, he's not at all affected by Xiao Qie saying that he doesn't hate him. Again, like, this is like his true self speaking, not a facade, and he starts saying things like that he survives on hatred. He's grown numb to it. There's nothing left that can make him feel pain, and changing the path he's on isn't an option. He says all of that to Xiao Qie, so it's like we see a little bit of him break down enough to say that. And Xiao Qie doesn't let him win or walk away after saying that. Instead, he throws him over his shoulder and takes him to his room and makes him take a bath.
Oh my god.
Honestly,
it's like, you're crazy right now, but it's because you're cold and wet. Just take a bath.
Literally. It's like he sees him as this like sad, wet little kitten, and his boyfriend instincts just take over. He's like, don't trust you. You smell like blood. You've obviously killed someone just now, but also you are so sad and wet. Into the bath you go. So while Shen Zhishuan warms up in the bath, he questions him on where he's been out killing people in the middle of the night and whether it was for the dowager. So, a little mild interrogation. He refuses to answer, but Xiao Qie holds his clothes out of reach and says that the Empress Dowager doesn't know how Shen Zhishuan saved him during the autumn hunt, but he'll tell her and then he'll have no choice but to be on his side.
Oh my god. Or else you have to be naked.
Then he forcibly towels off Shen Zhishuan's hair, and the two of them end up tumbling onto the floor fighting. Thankfully, Shen Zhishuan does have a robe on at that point.
Is this like their fourth tussle on the ground?
Honestly, I've lost track, right? It's their thing. It's so funny. I just think it was so cute how he just toweled off his hair. Like, you don't have to do that. You guys are not friends. You got, like, it would even be weird to do to a friend.
Yes.
It's like he's just forcibly taking care of him a little bit at this point because he will not take care of himself. Yeah. So after that, he makes Shen Zhishuan sleep in his bed while he takes the couch. And you may be wondering, what are they doing at this point? Xiao Qie is kind of, again, previously he says, not letting you out of my sight, so you have to be with me night and day. This is all part of that. But now they're sleeping in the same room.
Oh my god.
So while he's sleeping on the couch and Shen Zhishuan is in his bed, he dwells on his past. And when Xiao Qie was first taught about desire as a youth, not sexual desire, but just desires in general, he was told that all desires are dangerous because people can control you with them. But even as a little child, he always wanted what was hard to tame, from falcons to horses, like wild horses. He just wanted to tame anything that was wild and uncontrollable. And now his lust was like a falcon. With this new revelation, he gets a boner watching Shen Zhishuan sleep in his bed. Right. So he's self-aware at this point.
My falcon, my wild horse, I wish to tame you.
Literally.
Oh my
Isn't
god,
that
he's
ridiculous?
waxing poetic about his boner.
It's true. So we now have not just like one fluke of a boner. We have a man who is self-aware that, like, regardless of how he feels about Shen Zhishuan as a person, he does find him wildly attractive and he does want to tame him.
Tame him.
Good fucking luck.
Yeah, good fucking luck.
Maybe better luck than we think, actually.
Oh my.
So anyways, we're on to boner number 2. The next night, they end up sharing a bed. But Xiao Qie has become even more and more dog-like, so he takes a bath first, and he ends up rubbing his wet head on Shen Zhishuan's back as he pretends to sleep. He's like, please, will you please dry my hair? Please, please, please. And then ends up sleeping next to him, sharing a blanket, and does get morning wood. And yes, Shen Zhishuan does feel it. And at this point, he's just like washing his hands of it and like walking away.
Oh my god.
Shaming him a little bit for it, but it's not really working. So boner number 3.
Wow.
Yeah. They're spending a lot more time together, and they're having a lot more conversations and interesting interactions. And I think that's the point where, even if you're a little bit put off by all of the political intrigue, like, as long as you really like them together as a potential couple, you're good. You've made it.
Yeah.
You have plenty of boners to sustain you. Okay, so we have a brief arc when trouble comes by the name of Tan Tai Hu, a soldier in the Imperial armor whose family was from Zhongbo when the Biancha horsemen razed it to the ground. So he has a violent grudge towards Shen Wei's last remaining son and takes the first opportunity to go at him, first by insulting him viciously for his pretty boy looks and saying straight to his face that he's sleeping with Xiao Qie to move up in the world.
Nice.
Then he attacks him physically. Shen Zhishuan defends himself easily while the other soldiers stand by and watch without interfering. So Xiao Qie shows up, loses his shit at Ten Tai Hu, and when Ten Tai Hu does not admit his wrong, he dismisses him from the army immediately. He's like, you're fucking fired. Get out of here. And he goes off on him for prioritizing a personal grudge over military discipline, over his authority as a commander. He yells at everyone else for standing by and watching, and he makes them kneel in penance all night. Now, just to be clear though, like, it's not like he was doing it for Shen Zhishuan, even though you could be like, he totally is. I feel like he is actually not. He's more like using Shen Zhishuan in this moment because, like, over the 5 years he was the commander of the Imperial army, he was fair, but he was very strict, and he did a lot to earn his troops' respect with his forcefulness and his power. Mm-hmm. But after the Autumn Hunt incident, their reputation as an army was boosted significantly, and the soldiers underneath his command grew a little bit full of themselves. And so he uses Tantai Hui. I misspelled it in my notes, so that's why I was saying his name wrong. So he uses Tantai Hui to reassert his authority, and Shen Zhishuan is really critical of Xiao Qie for using him in this process. He's saying, you had this incident between me and them, and you use that to reassert your authority over your troops, but I don't appreciate you trying to use me because I see right through you for that. Mm-hmm. After Tentai Hui was dismissed from the army, Chen Yang ends up going to see him because Tentai Hui was taking care of like 3 orphans from the war zone, and Chen Yang like brings money from Xiao Qie and says like, here, take care of your kids, like the commander's not a bad guy, like you did usurp his authority by bringing your personal grudges in and not respecting his authority, but if you're willing to come back, he'll take you back. You just need to redirect your sense of revenge to the real enemy, the Biancha horsemen. And Chen Yang has, like, there's some scenes between Xiao Qie and Chen Yang specifically because as the head of Xiao Qie's personal guard, he messed up even more by just standing by, looking the other way and letting this fight happen. And Xiao Qie didn't reprimand him in front of the other troops to save like both their faces, but in private he's like, you disappointed me. And your rival Zhao Hui, who's like the deputy general for my brother, he would have never done this. And so he feels so bad, and he spends a lot of time apologizing and repenting, really like tries to turn it around and serve his master even better. So he's not super important in this volume, but he does become more of a supporting character in future volumes. Just right now, it's good to know that he is like Xiao Qie's like right-hand man. But just as another little note about like this Tantai Hui situation, like personally, I found it like really hard starting this book to empathize with people who wanted to take out their revenge on Shen Wei's son. Like, to me, it seems like, well, shouldn't you just be mad at Shen Wei? Like, what does his son have to do with it at all? Like, for me, that was pretty straightforward. So it seemed really unfair when people tried to just pin all the blame on him just because they were related. But when we do see Tantai Hui's like deeply personal expression of grief and anger, like I did take the time to stop and try to imagine it for myself. And I tried to think like, if I saw my whole family die, and if I saw like what it was like to be in this war zone where countless innocent people died, and then I saw like the direct descendant of the person responsible like walking around living a free life, I would be like, why do you get to live? Why did everyone die, and why do you get to live a happy life? I would absolutely feel that amount of anger, I think. So, like, I feel like this was the first point where I could empathize with the people hating Shen Zhishuan, and it feels like it made a little bit more sense to me. Yeah, it's not, like, ethical or really even logical, but it makes sense in an empathetic, like, thinking from your feelings way. Yeah, I mean, and additionally, it is completely established that families, like the families of anyone who commits treason, like they are considered responsible as well just by association. Yeah. So there is a precedent for it, but just on an emotional level, it makes sense. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, those are 2 characters who are introduced. They do stay important in later volumes, so now we know. So, for absorbing an insane amount of information thus far, I have a little treat for you. Ooh. Yes, it's smut. In the first volume. Yes! Wow. The sexual tension simmering between our future lovers finally comes to a head in the last 2 chapters of Volume 1. That's 2 chapters of some spicy stuff. So damn. Let's get into it. It starts with Xiao Qie and Shen Zhishuan sharing a room again. Xiao Qie wants to keep a close watch on him as he still has deep suspicions that he's up to no good. But right now, he's reflecting on his gay crisis. His entire military and martial upbringing taught him that it's dangerous to have desires. They will inevitably be used to trap or control you. Xiaoqie has followed this teaching his whole life. There's no one close enough to him to even know his true preferences for food or clothes. The only desire he was ever unable to hide was his wish to return home, and that was already used against him countless times. He knows that he should kill the desire he has for Shen Zhishuan now, but as he looks at him sleeping, he sees a different side of him for the first time. Shen Zhishuan is having a nightmare. He's helpless, he's in pain, he's not invincible. This is the side that suffers the same as him. Shen Zhishuan wakes suddenly, and Xiaoqie seems to have decided what he wants, pinning him down. He invites Shen Zhishuan to give in to him, to join his side, but he's only laughed at. Their conversation is insane. I just have to read a couple of pages out loud for you to understand how shameless they are, okay? Like, trust me, you want to hear this.
Okay.
Xiaoqie gripped Shen Zhishuan's hand and pinned them above his head. Surrounded by Shen Zhishuan's scent in the darkness, he said, "You sleep in my bed. You know very well what I think about every night. You call me impressive, but Shen Lanzhou, the impressive one is you." What's to be done then? Shen Zhishuan's voice was a little hoarse. He said nonchalantly, "I didn't do anything." "But I want to." Xiaoqie leaned in and stared down at him. "I want to do it." "Choose some other death for me." Shen Zhishuan allowed Xiaoqie to gather his wrists into one hand. "Dying in bed is too embarrassing."
Oh my god.
Because he's still like, you still hate me. You clearly want me dead.
Yeah.
So like, if this is how it's gonna be, I don't want it. "I changed my mind." Xiaoqie brushed aside Shen Zhishuan's damp hair with the hand he'd freed, as if examining a newly purchased jewel. "I don't want you to die. I advise you not to bite this neck," Shen Zhishuan said. "Lanzhou," Xiaoqie sighed his name and jested. "If I don't, will you let me off for the rest?" Shen Zhishuan looked at him. "Is it fun teasing me?" Xiaoqie asked. "Yeah."
Yeah.
Yeah. Shen Zhishuan sensed Xiaoqie gradually closing in. "It's fun to see the pitiful look of a little lost wolf." "Then let's have even more fun," Xiaoqie said. "The Empress Dowager has been biding her time without making a move. What did she promise you? Throw it away, Lanzhou, and I'll give you much, much more." "Uh-huh," Shen Zhishuan laughed. "I'm guessing freedom is not among the things you're offering. Maybe you don't know, Xiao-Er, but everything you want is written in your eyes, and at this moment you want to chain me up, am I right?" Hello?
Hello? Oh my god.
We're talking about chaining you up? Oh my goodness. It gets even better. Like, I cannot believe I'm reading this with my own eyes.
Yeah.
"I want to forge a golden chain," Xiaoqie said. "It's a pity this neck is so bare." "Dog collars were first used to leash wolves," said Shen Zhishuan. They were so close now that they could hear each other's breathing. "I'd like to put a golden chain around your neck, too. For every sentence you speak, I'll yank it once." It's like, they're just so spiteful towards each other, and yet they're saying these absolutely sordid things. "Let's not." Xiaoqie arched a brow. "With your salary, you wouldn't be able to afford it even if you emptied your pockets." The tips of their noses were about to touch. Xiaoqie's thumb ring was digging into Shen Zhishuan's wrist, already red in his grip. Oh yeah, he did give back the ring at some point. This is surprising. Guess who kisses who first?
I'd assume it would be Xiaoqie, but is it?
It's Shen Zhishuan.
Oh my
He's the
god.
one, after all of their little flirting and bickering, after how much Xiaoqie has come onto him, only to be like pushed away again and again, Shen Zhishuan is the one who kisses him first.
Damn.
So, initiating the lovemaking. So, all of Xiaoqie's pentapornius goes to his head. The two of them are immediately passionately entangled with both lust and mutual hatred. And I cannot stress enough that this is the most genuine, consensual hate fucking I've ever seen. Okay? Because there's a difference. We're not talking about what goes on in Case File Compendium.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about Wang Shin style rough sex.
Mm-hmm.
This is the real deal. This is a literary masterpiece. Okay?
A literary masterpiece.
Because enemies to lovers, everyone likes to claim, oh, this is enemies to lovers. This is enemies to lovers. I very rarely come across actual, genuine enemies to lovers. And here we are.
Wow.
Yep. And so, anyways. So yes, the sexy times, like they go into some detail, for sure. But also, you really get a sense of, like, where they're at emotionally for all of their feelings to come out and manifest in this way. Like, the angst during this scene where they're finding, like, comfort in each other's bodies is, like, front and center. Life is rotten. They're both so completely alone. They're full of self-loathing and pain. They see each other for who they really are, and they just want to tear into each other, like direct words from the book, with a wild indulgence to break free of their misery and forget a while.
Wow.
This is not a fade to black situation. whatsoever. There's some detail here. And the last two sentences of this volume is Xiao Qie didn't want to surrender, but he had already lost.
Ooh, that's so good.
Ain't that good?
Let me read some of the sordid details.
Like, want me to go wild with abandon? Do you dare? Try tearing me apart, see if I care. Like, ugh.
Oh my god.
Yes. Okay, so, like, you probably want... Yeah, I think these two, there's like the last chapter is like 2 pages long, but it's like all sex.
The night had been soaked through, and now so too had their sheets.
Also, to their credit, they both came at least once. Xiao Qie definitely multiple times, but, like, even Shen Zhishuan is enjoying himself a little bit, okay? Like, this isn't, like, a one-sided deal.
They're
going
at it. They like each other.
They'll say, like, something about each other, that's for sure.
He was no longer a hypocrite pretending to be immune to lust. He was an ordinary man who stormed the enemy's den and went for the kill in the dark. He would make it impossible for Shen Zhishuan to remember the Chashi sinkhole, impossible for Shen Zhishuan to forget this intense merging of bodies.
Right? That feeling when he promises to fuck you so hard that you forget your trauma.
Oh my god.
Thank God.
He literally says, I'm gonna fuck the trauma out of you.
And sometimes, that's what works.
Wow. That's some good shit right there.
And it's, like, as they're, like, coming together, it's, like, in italics, it's like, so let's hate each other. It's like, this is still about, or, like, steeped in the idea of hating each other, which makes it so juicy. Now, obviously, in the course of this whole story, it does not stay being hate. We end up with a pair of very devoted lovers, but I kind of like this side of them too. It's usually not my thing, but they do it so well.
Damn, that's incredible.
Right?
Wow.
I'm so happy we got there in the first volume because it feels like a little treat after everything we've learned thus far.
Damn.
I really hope that people read it. Hope people give it a try. I hope that people love them as much as I do. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this incredible PowerPoint. That was so well written, and anybody can understand this, but if you are reading it and you need help, I feel like this can really help make things clearer and entice some new readers. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!